My son said he's not afraid of the basement anymore. He says I don't have to be either. Let me back up. I won't drag it out. We live in a row of townhouses in the Midwest. I won't say the city. You'd probably recognize the type anyway. A neighborhood where people say it's fine as long as you're careful, and then tell you about a carjacking 2 blocks over. On one side of our unit is a quiet retired couple. On the other side is nothing, just an empty lot where a building used to be. They tore it down before we moved in. Now it's a bald patch of dirt people cut through at all hours. You learn the sounds: quick footsteps, a jogger, slow, heavy ones with a plastic bag, someone from the encampment that forms when it's warm. Car doors slam and raise voices. Time to recheck the locks. My husband, Joel, thinks I overdo it. You can't live like this, Rach, he says, taking the keys from me as I go check out the deadbolt again. We've got good locks, cameras. There's nothing in the basement but a water heater and Christmas decorations. Our son, Eli, is almost 3. He repeats everything, little scrambled echoes that come back hours later. He's been scared of the basement since day 1. The stairwell is steep and narrow, with the light switch at the top. The bulb flickers when it's cold. The first week, he clung to my leg whenever I opened the door. "No basement," he'd whisper. "Basement's scary." Totally normal, I told myself. Kids hate dark corners and weird noises. But fear spreads, settles into the walls, and waits for you to notice. The first time I was certain I'd locked the basement door and found it cracked open the next morning. I blamed myself. It was a Tuesday. We were rushing, daycare, work, the morning news talking about rising property crime. I walked past the basement door on my way to refill my coffee and saw it. Not open, just wrong, unlatched. "Did you go down there this morning?" I called to Joel. He was tying his shoes. "What? No, why?" "It was open," I said. He shrugged. "Probably the frame warped. Old house." I pushed the door shut firmly. I tried to believe him, but my brain was already grinding through worst-case possibilities. That evening, Eli walked past the basement door and glanced at it. Not scared, just thoughtful. "Basement," he said. "Still scary?" I tried. He shook his head, then nodded, then ran off. Toddlers. No clarity, only vibes. After that, little things added up. One night around 11, I was alone doing dishes. The house hummed normally, the fridge, the dishwasher. Underneath all that, I heard a noise from downstairs. A drag, or a shift. Something heavy moving a few inches across concrete. I froze, turned off the faucet, listened. Nothing. No repeat, no footsteps, no creaking door, just the appliances and my heartbeat. "Joel?" I called. "Yeah." You hear that?" "Hear what?" he said. I stood there dripping. Never mind. And the next morning I went down there in daylight just to reassure myself. Everything looked the same. Boxes, shelves, water heater, except for one thing. A folded moving blanket lay on the floor at the bottom of the stairs. I was sure we'd left it draped over a box. I stared at it, picked it up, threw it back on top of the box. Told myself it had simply slipped. Fear makes you work very hard to stay reasonable, at least at first. Meanwhile, the empty lot beside our house felt closer every night. The fence has 2 loose panels anyone can slip through. Sometimes the motion light flicks on and fills the kitchen with harsh white. Teenagers would cut through, laughing quietly. Sometimes a man with a backpack ambled past. Sometimes nothing at all. "You can't watch every person who walks by," Joel said gently one night, lowering the blinds. "You'll drive yourself crazy." "People sleep in that lot," I said. "Not in our house," he said. "That's what the doors are for." That same night, I found Eli's stuffed bear sitting at the top of the basement stairs. "Eli?" I called. "Why is Bear here?" He poked his head around the corner. "Bear down there." "Bear doesn't go in the basement." "For them," he said. "For who?" He shrugged. "Them." There was no them. Just pipes and shadows and dust. Still, I took Bear upstairs and shut the basement door hard. A few days later, at daycare pickup, his teacher stopped me. Eli had a lot to say about the basement today, she said, smiling. Totally normal monster phase stuff. I forced a laugh. Yeah, ours freaks him out. She waved a hand. We talked about how basements are just parts of houses. He seemed okay by the end. But that night, I caught him standing at the kitchen threshold, watching the basement door. You okay? I asked. He jumped, then smiled. Hi, Mommy. Thinking about the basement? I asked him. He considered it. Basement okay. Is it not scary anymore? I asked. He nodded once, but something in me tightened instead of relaxing. The next night at dinner, he said it out of nowhere, in his small, calm voice, while staring at his plate. I'm not afraid of the basement anymore. Joel and I both looked up. Eli didn't notice. He picked up a noodle, inspected it, and dropped it. You're not? I asked. He shook his head. Why not, buddy? Joel asked. Eli shrugged, then casually. He says I don't have to be. Every sound in the room seemed to stop. I put my fork down. Who says that, Eli? He blinked, like the answer was obvious. The man who dresses like a police officer. It felt like my brain slammed against the inside of my skull. Images hit me at once. A knock I hadn't answered. Someone talking through a window while I was in the shower. Someone slipping in through the basement door I'd found cracked. A man at the top of the stairs listening. The man who dresses like a police officer, I repeated. Joel's knuckles whitened around his fork. Where did you see him, Eli? I leaned forward. Here? In the house? I asked, stammering. I don't know, he said, overwhelmed. Was he in the kitchen or the living room? Eli looked down toward the basement door. Every hair on my body rose. Down there, I whispered. He looked back at us patiently, as if explaining simple things to slow adults. It's okay. He sleeps in the basement. The room tilted. Joel went white. In our basement? I said. Eli nodded. It's okay, he repeated. We left immediately. I grabbed Eli, my purse, my phone. Joel tried to call me, but you weren't there. You didn't hear his voice. The man who dresses like a police officer. He says I don't have to be afraid. He sleeps in the basement. We sat in the car a block away, engine idling. Eli hummed, swinging his feet. My hands shook so badly I could barely dial. Joe called the non-emergency line. We think there might have been an intruder, he said. Our son said something. There's no signs of forced entry, but could someone come clear the house, please? 2 real police officers arrived. They used the spare key Joel hid under the mat. They searched everything. When they came back, the older one said, house is clear, basement too. Dust on the floor. Nobody's been staying down there. I nodded, but clear. Felt like no evidence. Not safe. Back inside, the house felt wrong. Too quiet. Too hollow. Joel knelt beside Eli. Hey, buddy, where did you see the man dressed like a police officer? Here or somewhere else? Eli frowned, thinking. He says, don't be afraid. I know, Joel said gently, but where was he? I don't know. I knelt too. Sweetheart, is he in our basement? Eli looked at the basement door again and said to us calmly, it's okay. He sleeps in the basement. That night is still a blur. Joel wanted to call the police again. I was sure they'd think we were losing it. I walked through every room, touching every lock and latch. Eli fell asleep on the couch watching cartoons, entirely unbothered. 3 a.m., I stared at the ceiling, imagining a man curled on that moving blanket downstairs, listening to our voices through the floorboards. It felt real enough to be a memory. The next morning, I called the daycare. Hi, this is Rachel Carter, I said. I wanted to ask about something Eli mentioned. Oh, the director said brightly. What's up? I shared my concern. She responded quickly, yeah, that was about Community Helpers Day. We had a firefighter, a nurse, and a police officer, Officer Raymond. My stomach dropped. Yesterday? Yeah, the kids got to try on his hat. They loved it. What did he say to the kids and to Eli? Well, Eli talked about being scared of his basement, she said, so Officer Raymond told him, basements are just rooms. You don't have to be scared. And then he said he sleeps in his basement at home. He's renovating it. I thought it was sweet. I closed my eyes. In toddler speak, all the pieces had slid together. He says I don't have to be afraid. The man who dresses like a police officer, he sleeps in the basement. Not our basement, his basement. I laughed shakily. Just checking, I said, and hung up. Joel came in. Well, I told him. Relief washed over his face, mixed with embarrassment, left over fear. So it was nothing, he said. I shook my head. No, it was something, just not what we thought. That night, I closed the basement door and locked it, even though it's an interior door. Checked every door and window. Joel didn't stop me. Eli wandered in wearing pajamas. He looked at the basement door. Basement okay, he said. Yeah, I whispered. Basement's okay. He ran upstairs. His footsteps thumped overhead. I stood there a long time, hand on the knob, listening to the quiet house. We still lock our doors every night. We probably always will. You can stack a dozen deadbolts between you and the world, but once fear gets inside, there isn't a lock in the world that will keep it out.